50s Sunday, low 60s by Monday. Hear weather twice an hour or online anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com. Currently, it's 22.
Your own home without the maintenance. If you're 55 or better, a beautiful Liberty Village villa could be yours. This is Erin, and I invite you to come take a tour of our move-in ready villa. Click the Liberty Village icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Simply the finest.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
There's nothing like hearing the songs you love on local radio with no subscriptions and no monthly fees. But there's a new bill in Congress that could stop the music. If passed, this bill would tax your local radio station simply to play the music you love. Text LOCAL to 52886 and ask Congress to support local radio stations. Help us keep you connected to the music, local news, weather, and traffic that you need each day. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
ServPro of Piatt-Dewitt Counties, the leader in cleaning, restoration, and construction, is proud to again be the exclusive sponsor of the WHOW Clinton Maroon Player of the Game, announced at the end of every Maroon sports broadcast. Our WHOW announcing staff will select that night's WHOW ServPro of Piatt-Dewitt County Clinton Maroon Player of the Game, whose play will be highlighted in each WHOW Maroon post-game broadcast, and that player receives a certificate. Find out the many services provided by ServPro of Piatt-Dewitt Counties by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Hey everybody, Buddy Wilson here, your new country financial agent in Clinton. We're all familiar with the three whats. What is it? What can you do for me? And what does it cost? At Country Financial, we can help you find the answers with insurance coverage to help you protect what matters the most, all at prices you can afford. While you're juggling work, kids, and keeping an eye on the future, we'll make sure we're one of the first ones there when you need us the most. Call me, Buddy Wilson, your newest country financial representative in Clinton at 217-935-5620. Let's chat about your insurance needs today.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the morning show is Mr. Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln. Good morning, Ed. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, Seth. Doing great.
Good to hear. Thanks for making time for us. I know it's a busy time for you. We come off a wild week of weather. It started off rather nice with the weekend. Weekend was just beautiful, Ed. It really was. And then, of course, the cold air comes in and brings with it a bunch of rain, record-setting rain in Lincoln, it sounds like. What happened?
Yeah, we got a warm frontal boundary. It was just south of our area, so we just had a lot of air overrunning the cold air up here, in Lincoln and DeWitt County. We're kind of cool. I mean, it was in the low 40s and steady, heavy rains. It just really just kept pounding us over and over again because that frontal boundary was kind of stationary. As the low pressure moved across, that's what gave, the foot of snow to Wisconsin, Minnesota, and it gave us upwards of 3.5 inches in DeWitt and Logan County here.
Yeah, I was telling you off the air and mentioned to our listenership that Thursday morning or yesterday morning, I guess it was, but I had to run into Lincoln on Wednesday afternoon, and it was mostly after all the rain had fallen. There was still a little bit of rain in the area, but most of it had moved through, and my goodness, but there was fields underwater, and I was telling you there were roads off of Route 10 that looked like they were underwater, and you could just see water flowing into the drainage ditches and all those things. It was a wild day of rain, and it all came at once, Ed. That's what I was talking to a lot of people about, is it just, particularly over that way, is just how much came in a short amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. I was, on the warning operations on the radar, and you could just hear the roof just getting wave after wave of pouring rain, and you kind of look out the window. It's like, wow, how much has fallen? We ran out, and took our measurement, and it was almost 3 inches. We're like, wow, okay.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That's a lot.
It was. And I'll tell you what, Ed, to kind of revisit February a little bit here as we wrap the month up, I was thinking about this the other day in preparation of our interview this morning. It really felt like until the rain came on Wednesday, February had been really dry. Talk a little bit about the precipitation trend leading up to that rain on Wednesday.
Yeah, we had a very dry month overall. We only had about 3/4 of an inch of rain total here for the month, which is well below normal. Um, it was going to be almost 2 inches below normal if we hadn't gotten 3.4 inches of rain, on the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're, 2.7 inches above normal for the month. So we're, pretty soaked. That wasn't everywhere. I mean, it was a corridor of 3+ inches. The remainder of the area, the southern DeWitt County was probably closer to an inch because we had 1.01 over in the just northwest Piatt County. So just north of Cisco.
Mm-hmm.
So if you went, south of Weldon, that corner probably was, closer to an inch. But then you go to the northwest corner, and that's in the 3.5-inch swath where Waynesville is and north of Wapella. So
yeah, well, and that's interesting you say that because in the last report of the day I did around 4:00 on Thursday, I had pulled up the CoCoRaHS map, and we've talked about CoCoRaHS. Maybe we can dive into that a little bit more here later as we talk. But I pulled that up and gave out the rainfall totals for the area. You could really see like starting in like south of Quincy in western Illinois, and then it just kind of moves north just slightly, like up through Lincoln, Bloomington. And then it gets into like the northeast corner of the state and into northern Indiana, just solid red, those red markers of 3 inches of rain. I mean, it was noticeable. Like it was a noticeable pattern on that CoCoRaHS map when I pulled it up later in the afternoon.
Yeah. And that's the kind of, meteorological situation that allows you to get, 2 feet of snow, because if that had been snow, we would have been buried. Situations happen like that. We were expecting that, 1 to 2 feet in Minnesota, Wisconsin. It didn't quite pan out that high for snowfall totals, but certainly very, very impactful storm system with, our rain and very heavy freezing rain, just north of Chicago, southern Wisconsin, and then massive snow just north of there. So this was a very impactful, and it could have easily, shifted south, and we could have gotten into the wintry weather, but we missed that particular bullet this time.
So, and Ed, when you talked about, for February, we had been looking at a rather below normal precipitation trend until that rain came on Wednesday. But when you get all that rain at one time, is that detrimental at all to, like, would you rather, I mean, I'm sure you would rather it be over the course of a month, you'd get those 3 inches of precipitation. Excuse me. But, is it detrimental at all to get it all at once like we did on Wednesday?
It does cause more runoff because the ground can't quite absorb it, quickly enough. So you do get runoff into the streams and send the water out into the waterways instead of really, deeply getting that moisture into the lower levels of, 4-8 to 20-inch levels of the below ground. So no, yeah, you do lose the benefit of that rain when it's just so quick, because there's nothing that can do, nowhere it can filtrate that quickly.
Yeah.
Not possible.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of what I wondered, like when you get it all at once, like, and there's probably areas, Ed, particularly south. Like I noticed the farther south you go in our listening area, like the farther south you go, the less rain they got. Like I know down in like Christian County, they only got like, a half an inch, maybe a little bit more than that. So, but for that talking point about, the soil and the ground able to soak in all that moisture, does that replenish soil moisture if it's not able to take in everything at once and it just runs off?
No, once it hits the streams and waterways, then you lose the benefit. That's why usually in the winter we have frozen ground, and almost all the rain that hits the ground on a warm winter day, you don't get hardly any benefit because you've got that layer of frost that's 6-7 inches thick, and none of that water really helps the ground moisture.
Yeah.
But now we haven't had a frost depth for hardly at all this winter.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was helpful. I mean, you can't say it wasn't, but the true full benefit of 3 inches of rain hitting the ground, if that had fallen, over two days, it would have been much more, replenishing for the lower level groundwaters.
Yeah. Now speak to potential, like, lack of precipitation in other parts of the state. I mean, like we said, there was that swath right through kind of the center, moving just a bit north in central Illinois. And you mentioned some snow and ice in northern Illinois, but like we said, southern Illinois probably didn't get as much as other areas. So how about areas of the state that are still dealing with some precipitation deficiencies here as we wrap up February?
Yeah, the last drought outlook was released on the 23rd, and it was valid on the 21st. So it just missed the real heavy rains. But we are, as Illinois goes, there's only drought areas are like towards Quincy, just west of the Illinois River for Rushville, Quincy, and then a little bit Kankakee north to the far southeast edge of Chicago. And it's just abnormally dry, really base level of dryness. So, the state really got quite a bit of replenishing moisture this winter because we didn't have a frost depth. The water that fell was able to filter in and really, kind of alleviate a good portion of our, surface level drought conditions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, our guest on the phone here for this morning. Hey, Ed, as we look back at February, so precipitation, we know we talked about, that rain on Wednesday really helped us out, kind of reinvigorating the lack of moisture we saw in the month. But how about temperatures? It felt awfully mild. I mean, buddies of mine and I are joking about we're already into spring and we're not going to let it change. How about that?
Yeah, this is a highly unusual month. We're 6 degrees above normal for, the entire temperature average for the whole month so far. But we've only had 4 days where the high temperature in Lincoln has been 32 or below in February. That is just unheard of because normals are in the upper 30s, mid to upper 30s for highs, and we have been crushing that. So our average overall temperature right now is 35.8, which is just well above normal. I'm not sure where we fall in the top 10, but this could certainly be in the top 10 of warmest Februaries, just because and every weekend it was beautiful, warm, and then we get a Thursday storm. I don't know what that was with February, but kind of a little pattern there.
Yeah, no question. It's been awfully warm. What's been going on? I mean, what in the world is happening, whether it's atmospheric conditions, fronts? I mean, what is happening here that we have had such a nice stretch of February?
Yeah, we really haven't had that major buckle of the jet stream that typically sets up in like early February, late January, early February. We'll get, a polar air mass that just surges through Canada and just pounds the central U.S. And that just hasn't happened. The cold air has kind of been bottled up on the other side of the polar cap in northern Siberia, where they've gotten quite a bit more cold weather than and it's just that's the way the Earth works. I mean, the cold air is there; it just never found its way to this side of the Canada and of the pole. So it's kind of luck of the draw the way the oscillation of cold air goes. Sometimes you just never know where that pool of cold air is going to begin to surge south based on the pressure patterns that occur across the northern hemisphere.
Well, now the question, Ed, becomes: are we going to get just buried with it in February or in March? Excuse me. Not only the cold air, but the snow. What do we think?
Well, the outlook for March is not. It's showing cold air. It definitely across like northern Illinois, Wisconsin, and then straight west to the west coast. There's a strong signal of below normal temperatures in March, but it doesn't really pound cold air into Illinois in the outlook. But it's close by. So I would say we're going to have some cold air get in here. It's just, it's not going to be that real bitter Arctic, 40 below wind chills. I don't see that kind of cold coming in, but below normal. So we could get some highs in teens, maybe a couple of days, where wind chills are approaching 0 and whatnot. But, the bitter cold is usually not something that occurs in March, just because the land upstream causes air masses to change as they start moving into the Illinois area. So
yeah,
there is a snowpack up there now, so that'll bode well for colder air making it this far. When there's a snowpack that the air is going across as it's coming out of Canada before it gets to Illinois, that gives it the ability to really be that extra level of cold coming into Illinois. So we'll have to see that there's a snowpack north of us now. So we'll stand by. Mother Nature has thrown big snowstorms in Illinois in March. So
Yeah.
don't put the shovel away yet.
Right. And that's kind of the next question is, okay, the snow. I mean, obviously we haven't had much of it, if any, in February. So again, are we going to get like just one big snowstorm and then that's going to be, kind of like we always like talk about, there's that one last snowstorm and then it's off to spring.
Yeah.
But is it going to be that, or is it going to be like, 4 or 5 events of just like an inch or two? What do you foresee in terms of snowfall? And I know that's kind of hard to predict, so that's kind of a tough question, I feel like.
Well, the monthly precip outlook for March is in the, 40 to 50th percentile of above normal precip potential. So, there's going to be moisture hitting the ground. You don't usually see in March, like snowstorm, 2 days off, snow event separated by a couple of days, because it's just a little too warm more frequently in March. So more of we're going to get one big storm, and then, you'll deal with it. And then, you start to warm up again. There's not a lot of more, those frequent snowfalls are usually in the January, February timeframe.
Got it.
The March timeframe is just, get walloped by a big one and then you deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's good to hear. So we'll hope for that for sure. Now, Ed, when it comes to the one thing I wanted to ask about, like you talked about temperatures and snowfall and snowpack, as we get into March, and we're already kind of starting to see it a little bit now, the sun is out more, obviously. How much does that impact, weather patterns as we see more sunshine and that sort of thing? How about that?
Yeah, exactly. And that sun angle is what's causing us to get more energy. The angle that the sun's rays hit the earth is direct correlation to how much energy is actually imparted onto the ground and the earth. So now the sun, as we go, the Earth's tilt will be more and more towards the sun, giving us that sun angle. And that causes the snow to melt quicker. The ground will be warmer. So you really need more snow to pile up, to get those bigger snowfall totals when the ground is already warm. So the sun causes a lot of problems for snow to be, a major impact for a long time in March. You can get that big snow, but it's going to get eaten away really quickly if there's any sunny days shortly after that.
Yeah,
so
man. You just hate to hear that, Ed. That type of stuff is just heartbreaking to hear. So really is. But no, in all seriousness, Ed, we need a timeout here, my friend. Where do folks go to learn about all things weather forecasts, weather data? Where do they find it all?
Weather.gov/Lincoln.
Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is my guest on the phone here for this morning. We'll talk more with Ed. We'll maybe get a look at that spring outlook and more about the month of March. More to come with Ed Shimon on from the National Weather Service on the morning show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Friday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. Corn, beans in Chicago. Wheat all starting the day in the red. March corn 652 3/4 down 7.5. May corn down 8, 651 1/4. July corn 642 3/4 down 8. March beans starting the day 1527 3/4 down 6.5. May beans down 8 1/4. 1519. July beans 1510 down 9.5. March Chicago wheat 722 down 16 1/4. May wheat 734 down 16.5. July wheat starting this Friday 741.5 down 14 3/4. May be meal 474.40. That's down 360. And May bean oil 61.79. Down 39 cents. Look at the opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Friday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
At Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Baum Motor Company in Farmer City, our job is to help you and solve your transportation needs. This is Scott Baum. Both in Clinton or Farmer City, we'll listen and find options for a different vehicle. Or we'll give you repair options to keep that car, truck, or SUV safe and trouble-free so you can continue with your busy schedule. If it has to do with transportation, we're here to help. Visit our full-service team today in Clinton or Farmer City. Baum Chevrolet Buick, right from the start.
MR Systems Wireless is your local internet provider for Clinton and surrounding area. They have the products you want and the local service you deserve. MR Systems Wireless Internet service for home or business includes unlimited data, unlimited streaming, and unlimited calling. Plans start at just $48 a month and get a free Roku 4 lease with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Beacon Insurance agent in Clinton. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is my guest on the phone today. Ed, let's talk about beyond the month of March. We really kind of hit on that in the first segment there. So April, May, June, as we get into the late spring and the summertime, what are we looking at for patterns here, Ed?
Yeah, it looks like the extended outlooks are going with above normal precip signals in there all the way through summer. And then we have a little bit of a signal of a cool March. So that's going to kind of trend to the middle part of spring cooler. But it looks like as we head into summer, above normal temperatures are solidly entrenched across, southeast, including Illinois. So, it could be, some pretty warm periods as we head through, our summer this year, but plenty of rain. So I think our drought might be put to rest here for a bit because I'm just seeing persistent out of the Climate Prediction Center above normal precip. Eventually that's going to replenish those deep soil levels because at the 100-inch level, it's still really dry. 20 inches looking much better. 4 and 8 are looking much better too. So, but if we can get that deep soil moisture replenished this year, that would be great.
Sounds like it's going to be a tough growing season. Or sorry,
might be a
tough planting
into the
season.
Fields. Yeah, they're going to be a little wet. So I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't cause a problem with planting season. But maybe Mother Nature will throw enough dry periods in there during critical portions of April, so that people can get their planting done.
Well, and I'll tell you, Ed, it could be interesting because like in February, we were anticipating an above normal precipitation trend, and it was largely dry until Wednesday when we got it really all at once. And so maybe that's the pattern we see. Of course, that's not necessarily a good thing when you're talking planting because you don't want to put the seed in the ground and then have it flooded out, right? So,
Right.
that could be interesting. Or we get it all up front. Like, let's say we get it early in April and then the rest of the month is just dandy. So, we could see that too, I suppose.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what's setting up with a lot of the weather systems. They pack a really big punch. There's tons of moisture that got drawn into these deep low pressure systems, and they put down that kind of moisture, but then you don't see another one for 2 weeks or more. So
Yeah, for sure. Going to be interesting. How about temperatures? Like you mentioned above normal temperature trend into the spring and summer. What are normal temperatures for those time frames, and what could we be looking at for like that above normal signal? What do you think there, Ed?
Sure. Yeah. As we close out February, our normal high is creeping up quickly because of that sun angle. 45 is the normal high on the 28th, and 26 is the normal low. But in March, you get, a big transition of normal temps. It goes all the way up to normals in the upper 50s by the end of March. So really mild days, when you're normally in the upper 50s, you're going to see some 60s and 70s, maybe even, an 80 can creep in there in a late March day. So, you're going to get some pretty mild weather, and a lot of plants are going to start to blossom and bloom. I just read on a couple of Facebook posts that daffodils are coming up in some areas, and the leaf out across Tennessee into Kentucky. There's a lot of leaves trying to already break out. Just not too far south. It's about 25 days ahead of schedule, 20 to 25 days ahead of schedule in terms of leaf out to our south. So if this continues, we're seeing earlier green up and potential, spring type looks out there.
Gosh, you just hate to hear that, Ed. You're bringing all the bad news with you today. I feel like, goodness gracious. But no, in all seriousness, Ed, looking ahead to the rest of the spring, did I miss anything in that conversation piece you want to put out there for us?
No, I think and you want to always be mindful, wintry weather is not done. Just keep your, got to go slow in the snow kind of thought process still going, even though you're enjoying the spring, the dry roads or rainy roads instead. Wintry weather is still looming in the Midwest, and just be ready to drive safely if we do encounter, a decent, impactful event like that.
Yeah, Ed, we got time for one more topic. Do you want to quickly touch on spotter training or apps for summer volunteer program? I'll let you decide and wrap us up with that in the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, and in the same breath of snow is possible, severe weather is also possible. I just issued, several warnings for wind damage across South Central and Southeast Illinois. So head to a spotter class. It's great training, foundational information on thunderstorms and how to stay safe and how to spot for us. Give us information that we can put in those warnings and make them really effective. We issue a warning with a spotter report. People take action sooner, protects people's lives.
Sure. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, our guest. Network News on the way.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM W293 DJ Normal Bloomington.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. It seems the Fed's efforts to tame inflation haven't gained much traction so far. Consumer prices rose 0.6% December to January.